Hello, everyone. Our guest for today is Chris Withaker. Maybe you already read his book, Începem, sfârșitul, in Romanian. We begin at the end. It is a great book. It is a book that has a wide readership around the world. And it is my joy and my privilege to welcome Chris Withaker to Romania online.
Online, yes. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to get to talk to you about the book. So is it a direct translation of We Begin at the End, the title?
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know, because sometimes a lot of the countries, it's something completely different or slightly different. In France, the book is just called Duchess. Will be just called Duchess when it publishes.
Yeah, we try to respect the spirit of the book, because I think in the title in original has a powerful meaning. So we try to keep it. So We Begin at the End is a great novel, but somehow it's very hard to be classified, to be put on a genre. I can't see it as just a crime fiction. It's also a love story. It's I don't know. It's a mystery. How do you see it? How do you classify it?
I know exactly what you mean, because we had endless problems with it everywhere. Where do you put it? Up until recently, I worked in my local library, and I used to have trouble deciding where to shelve it, which section to put it in. So I'd put it in general fiction and crime and romance and everywhere else. Everywhere they would have it. I didn't set out to write a crime novel when I began. I just wanted to tell a story, a kind of snapshot of a year in the life of a 13-year-old girl. So to me, it's as much a coming of age novel as it is anything else. There's a crime in it, but and the crime in the book kind of pins the story down and connects all the characters. But like you said, there's a lot more to it. And it was just a book about this girl's life. So you're gonna get lots with that. You know, you're gonna get her relationship with her brother, her relationship with her mother. She's 13 and she meets the love interest kind of later in the book, this poor boy that takes a shine to a girl that has no interest in him. But so you get to see her get ready for her first dance and things like that. But you also get to see her kind of in the middle of a crime investigation, and, you know, as a victim, kind of like a secondary victim of a crime that occurs fairly near the beginning of the book. So I would say it's just a book about life.
Yeah, Duchess is a great. It's a great character. It's I don't know. You can feel it. You feel her. You can see her doing things or reacting or. It's a very strong character. How did she come to life? What was the inspiration for this character?
A strange way, actually. I left school without any qualifications and didn't think about writing as a career or anything like that. And I was 19 and I was out dropping leaflets in London quite early one morning, and someone came up to me and asked to borrow my cell phone. And I knew that I was going to get mugged because it was London and it had happened to my friends. But I was also 19 and he was on his own, so I didn't want to give him my phone. And we had a bit of a fight, and then he pulled out a kitchen knife, and it was a big knife, and it was I remember thinking it was too big and that he wouldn't use it. And then he stabbed me repeatedly in the side, and I didn't feel it at the time because the adrenaline was going. And then I looked down and I was wearing a white shirt and it was completely red, and I'd lost some blood, and he ran off with the phone, and I drove myself to hospital, and then had stitches, and remember everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. And I remember feeling really unlucky. Like, I thought, this, you know, like, why is everyone saying this? On one hand, I understood it, you know, I could have been killed, it could have been worse. On the other hand, I was just trying to go about my life, you know, and someone else gets involved and everything goes wrong. And I didn't know what PTSD was, post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't know why I was feeling so terrible, you know, why I couldn't eat, or I couldn't sleep, I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't read a book. Just nothing felt right afterwards. I didn't feel like me anymore. And things got really bad, and I was considering suicide, and I had kind of hoarded a load of painkillers and sleeping pills, and I was going to take them all. But I got a book from the library, and it talked about a technique you can try, like a self-help book, and it talked about how you take the traumatic incident and you change the people involved to fictional characters, and you change the location, you change the outcome. It's kind of like a distraction technique, and it said to kind of change the people involved to the opposite of you, you know, put some distance between yourself and them. And I had this image of a 13-year-old girl, a young girl, wearing a Stetson hat and carrying a gun, and outwardly she looked quite vulnerable, but she was clearly tough. And so that night I sat down and I wrote a character called Duchess. This was 20 years ago. And I wrote a scene. There's a scene in the book where she goes to a bar, and she's playing guitar, her mother, and these men are heckling her, and Duchess stands up for her mother. And so I wrote that scene 20 years ago, not intending it to be a book. It was just a writing exercise, and that was the first thing I'd written since school. And that character would later become the character in the book. So strange.
Yeah, what a story.
Mm-hmm.
Another special character in the book is Walk, the sheriff. It's very complex. On the one hand, he's the loyal and long-standing friend, maybe the ideal friend. He's almost a father figure for Duchess, mm-hmm. But deep inside, he's very broken. He's very lonely. It's fantastic. Maybe you put yourself in the Walk, because that inner sensitivity mm-hmm. came out as a tough and very cerebral and very bright man.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I think I put myself in a lot of the book and a lot of the characters because it became a bit like a diary that I would pick up every time I felt stressed, every time life was difficult. I would pick up again with this character or this set of characters and just write pieces of their lives. And Walk, the book begins with the death of a child. You know, I'm not spoiling anything to say that it happens in the first 2 pages of the book. And then we pick up the story again 30 years later, and we find out that Walk, who was a teenager at the beginning, and who was there when this child died, he finds the body. We find out that he's now the chief of police, but he hasn't moved on. You know, this terrible thing happened, and 30 years later, he's still kind of living under the shadow of it, and he still allows everyone to call him Walk, which was his childhood nickname. You know, he's supposed to be this serious man with this big responsibility, and he is still like a 15-year-old. You know, he's still waiting for his friend to come out of prison. He's still looking after his other friend, Star, whose daughter is Duchess. He is very much stuck in the past. And I could relate. You know, I could relate to having something terrible happen in your past, and then you feel like it kind of shadows every good thing that happens to you from then on. And so yeah, I understand what you mean. He's also he's better than I am in every way. You know, he's a better man. He has a very strong moral compass. You know, he knows what's right and what's wrong, and he won't deviate from it. He won't. And then towards the end of the book, he's facing a dilemma, and we kind of see a different side to him. But he's the reminder to Duchess that there are good men in the world and good people. And though she won't admit it, they are very close, and they have a very close kind of friendship that is strange because of their ages, but it spans her whole life and this book. you know, this year in her life, it's pivotal to her.
Yeah, I found very powerful the scenes where he's alone and he thinks about the past and his lost love, and that is every time is about that. Reading about you and your book online, I found in many places about the location. You wrote about California and Montana, and people felt real, these places. They are described in very rich details. And you're British, and I understand you never went to see California or Montana.
No, never been to either.
This is a huge talent. Yes.
It was a huge challenge, actually. It was strange because I mentioned before about writing as therapy, and it said to change the location. And it said to, when you're choosing a location to set your writing, choose the last place that you were happy. And my parents divorced when I was really young, and I was very close with my dad, my father, and all of a sudden he wasn't there. And so I missed him terribly. And he took my brother and I to Disney World in Florida, in America. And so when I look back, that was the last time that I remember being properly happy, you know. So it felt like America was close to my heart. And when we were standing in line at Disney World, we got talking to a family, and they were from Montana, and they described it as the most beautiful place on earth. So it was a natural fit. It felt, when I was having a difficult time and I needed to escape, to sit down at my desk in London and close my eyes and travel 4,000 miles to Montana, to this great expanse of beauty. It felt easier to tell a story, you know, that wasn't so close to my life. It felt easier to transplant everything there, to build out from there. You know, my imagination, it felt freer.
Great. You said this, and We Begin at the End was bought for television by Disney. Do you have any information about the production development, or?
It's still, sadly, it's still very early. I do know that there is a girl that they like for Duchess, which I can't say, but she is very Duchess. Because people like to message me on social media and tell me who they like for the roles, which I love. And no one ever suggested anyone for Duchess, because she's so unique, and her age, and she's quite a difficult person to cast, I think, and the whole story kind of hangs on her shoulders. But there's someone they like, and I imagine if Disney want you for something, you know, it's an honor to be asked. So hopefully she will read the book and enjoy it and like the character. But I had this strange week where I was working in the library in the day, and then in the evening I was meeting with Hollywood studios, and it was like, didn't feel like real life. It didn't feel like my life. But Disney just got it. They got the story. They got the story I wanted to tell. They kind of had ideas for how to adapt it for television. And you know, when you just click with someone, I just felt like we were all on the same page with regards to the adaptation. So it was an easy decision, and still a strange one, because I still pinch myself to think that Disney are working on one of my books. It's strange.
It's great. Let's hope for the best, and let's hope we will see it soon. As I told you before the interview, in the summer we will have also the translation for All the Wicked Girls. And I would ask you to tell the Romanian readers what is about the story.
So All the Wicked Girls follows twins, Summer and Rain, in a small town in Alabama, and Summer goes missing. And Summer is she's innately good. She's very good at schoolwork. She's kind of like a shining light in the town. She's a musical prodigy. She is a girl that appears to have no problems and no secrets, and whereas her sister Rain is the complete opposite. and so Rain is left behind. You know, she's left in this town where she's kind of an outcast, and no one can find her sister. And so Rain, along with the help of a local boy named Noah, begin to search for some of themselves. But in the backdrop of this, a storm cloud appears over the town, and it gets darker and darker, and everyone's waiting for this storm, you know, for the storm cloud to break and the storm to arrive. And it gets so dark that they begin to go about life in complete darkness. So you have this town, and there's a clear divide. Like, you can step out of the town and into the light, and back from the light into the darkness of the town. So the media get interested in it, and they kind of make links to this missing girl, and they wonder if they're quite religious, and they wonder if God's involved, and it kind of, the story goes from there, and we follow the police investigation alongside it, and I really hope you enjoy it, because it was a difficult book to write, actually. That was a really, none of them are easy, but yeah.
We will. Please tell me, how did you start to write? Your first novel was Tall Oaks,
Mm-hmm.
and is it the one that you wrote in Spain? You moved to Spain to write?
Yes. So I after I was stabbed, I went to work in the city in London, because I read, I picked up a newspaper and just saw an article about a stockbroker, and there was a picture of this man, and he drove a Ferrari, and he had a yacht, and I was very impressionable, and despite being terrible at maths, I thought, I'll go to work in the city, and I'll be rich and successful, and my parents will be proud of me, and that didn't happen exactly as I planned, because I went to work on a trading desk, and my boss said to me before my first day, he said, if you lose £10,000, then you stop trading. And the next day I lost £1 million, and got into a lot of trouble because I'd broken my trading limits, and then I hid the loss, which was illegal, and then got caught, and they gave me a contract to sign, and they said, if you pay back half of it, we won't go to the police. So I signed a contract, and I was 24 at the time, and I was in £500,000 of debt. And so I went back to writing again, as to kind of cope with the stress of it. And it took me another 6 years to pay back all the money. And then I was nearing 30, and I wasn't really happy in the city. I'd started to make money, and on the surface, we had quite a nice life. You know, my wife and I, we were okay. The future looked fairly certain, but I was very unhappy, and I read a book called The Last Child by an author named John Hart, and I read an interview with John where he talked about how he was a successful lawyer, and he gave it up to become a writer, to do something that made him happy. And I was so inspired by it, I just quit my job the next day after reading it, and I went home to my pregnant wife, who was a student, so we had no other money coming in, and I said, I've quit my job, I'm going to write a book, which was mad, because she didn't know that I'd ever written anything. She didn't know I wanted to be a writer. I had kept everything secret from everyone because I didn't want to worry anyone, and so overnight we sold our apartment, sold our car, and moved to Spain, to get away from London for a while, and to give me a chance to write, to see if I could even do it, because I didn't even know if I could write a book. I didn't know you needed an agent. I didn't know how you got an agent. I didn't know how competitive it is, you know, to become a writer. If I had known these things, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I knew that I needed to make a change. I knew that I was very unhappy, and writing made me happy. So we gave it a try, and thankfully I applied to lots of agents, and my agent picked me out of the slush pile, which is all the unsolicited stuff they get sent. And then we moved back to London, and Tall Oaks won one of the awards you can see behind me. And from there, the rest is history, kind of. I just kept working really hard. Financially, it was difficult, you know, to make money as an author. It's very difficult. I worked 3 jobs for many, many years, barely saw my kids, felt guilty about that, you know, that kind of guilt you have as a parent when you don't make enough time for your children. but though I earned a lot less, I was a lot happier, and my wife was happier because I was happier, and things gradually got better. And now I work 2 jobs instead of 3. So things are better.
I hope someday I will read your memoir, because maybe I will even see the film about you, because your life sounds so interesting, and it's fascinating for me to see how you took a traumatic event or a hard period and make it successful, make it worth it, make it important not only for you but to other people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been the reaction has been really nice. You know, it was published in the UK during the lockdown, and I think people needed an escape, and lots of people messaged me to say that they, you know, they really enjoyed escaping their lives for a while, and they all hoped that Duchess would get her happy ending, and yeah, so it's just been, yeah, nice. It's been a nice experience, and nerve-wracking as well, because though it's a book about a 13-year-old girl, it felt very personal because of the way it began, and it felt like 20 years I've lived with these characters. So that people have warmed to them is unexpected and a nice surprise.
And how is your life now as a writer and as a librarian? I understood correctly?
Yeah, so I've just finished working at the library, because We Begin at the End is sold all around the world, and there's a lot of traveling and I'm writing the new book, so I was unable to keep so many jobs going. Which I loved working at the library. It was my favorite job that I've ever had, but I just couldn't keep doing it and keep writing and meeting deadlines and things like that. But it's more settled is the answer to your question. Life is more settled. I've had after being stabbed and working in the city, I had issues with drinking and drugs and things like that, and my wife says that I've exchanged one addiction for another addiction, and the new addiction is writing, and she's probably right, because I tend to let the books drive me a bit crazy. I'll get up in the middle of the night to change a single sentence because it bothers me so much that it's not right, and I refuse to deliver anything to my editor until I'm certain I can't change another word in the book. And I've done that with every book I've written. We Begin at the End was the worst for that, because I think it took so long. But I haven't found a better way yet to do it. Maybe if I did a writing course or something, I would learn how to better edit and better spend my time. But until then, no, I just write all day, every day.
My last question, looking back to the last 20 years of your life, would you do something different if you could?
That's such a good question. And that is a question that I have thought about so many times. You know, I had a tendency before to kind of play everything over again. You know, would I have just handed over my phone the first time round? Would I have not gone to work in the city? Up until recently, I would have said there were many things I would do differently. But now I've come to accept, I've kind of made peace with it, and I've come to accept that we are all a kind of product of the good and bad things that we do. You know, they make us the people that we are now, and I don't think I could tell the stories that I do, and I could empathize with the characters in the way that I do if I hadn't lived the life that I have lived. You know, if I hadn't been through so much, if I hadn't had so many difficult times. So I would say no. I accept the flaws. I accept the mistakes I've made. I have children now, 3 children, and I know one day they're going to go online and find out this story or things about me, and ask me questions, and we all kind of want to appear strong, complete people in the eyes of our children. But I think it's the flaws that make us, you know, that give us the strength that we have. So no, I'd like to say no to that.
Thank you so much, Chris Withaker, for this interview. And after we get back to normal, maybe you'll come to Romania to visit, to meet your readers, maybe to write something.
I would love to. I would love to. Yeah, I'm always saying that I would like to visit. I told the team at Curtis Brown, you know, if you'll have me when everything's settled, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.